All right, welcome. My name is Jay Ramsey. I'm the owner of Cedar Valley Instrument Repair, a Cedar Falls based band instrument repair shop. Today, we're going to be looking at a Martin Tenor here that I will be overhauling. We're going to go through that process here. Beautiful old horn, very ornate. We're going to do the whole process here today. We're going to be disassembling it, addressing these tone holes, looking at any necessary dent work if there is, cleaning everything up, and of course, installing new pads, new corks. Let's get started here. Going to start here with the E key. I'm going to back this screw out. And you can see here that it has a pivot screw. This little pivot screw here, the tip of that pivot screw pokes into a hole. Oh, I'm sorry, this wasn't the E key, this was the G key. Pokes into a hole on the end of that key through that post, like so. And you can picture one on the other end here too doing the same thing. So we will be removing both of those screws here. We've got a little screw board here we're putting everything in. I'm going to take this out. Next will be the E key. This is the Palm E key. The Palm E has a similar system here. So we will be pulling this guy out. Pivot screw there. Putting that in our screw board. Popping that key out and removing the screw on the other side. I'm going to be keeping all the screws organized in a screw board. This is available through some suppliers, and you can use any kind. You can even make your own, but it's got spots for the pivot screws here, and here's the spot for those Palm E screws. We've got other screws on here too, of course, that we're going to be doing, but we'll keep going on this, using that screw board to keep everything organized. Let's see, what's a good one here? We're going to go work with this octave key here, I guess. This is an older style, and we've got some different moving parts. I'm going to back out a screw here. I'm going to be pulling this out with a pair of pliers. And here's our body octave key. This is going to have a different type of screw. This is not a pivot screw, but a hinge screw. This screw goes into this hollow tube of this screw. I don't know if you can kind of see through there, but there's a, that's a hollow screw, and this screw here goes that entire length. So it's important that that screw is at the same time sort of tight, but free to spin so that there's not a lot of slop. We'll put that screw away here as well. And of course there's only one, because there's only one screw that runs that whole length. We've got another style of screw like that for our octave shift lever. All right, I'm going to be putting that over here. There's our octave shift lever. That one will go up and touch the neck octave key that we'll get to later. And then we will pull out the screw for our thumb octave here for the left hand. And this one is also a hinge screw. And quite long, but you can kind of see how that one hangs inside of there as well. All right. Next, we're going to tackle our front F rocker. This is the key. There's the lever that opens the F key when we do this front F here. And this is kind of our gateway to a lot of altissimo notes and alternate fingerings there. It's another hinge screw there. So that one will go there into the screw board. This is interesting. There's a screw that runs this whole length here. And on most models of saxophones, it's the head of the screws here and it will be backed out this way. On this Martin, it'll go down this way. So we'll see if we can pull that out or if we have to unbury some more mechanisms lower here on the horn before we do that. Let's have a look and see what we can get there. Screws backing out, and good news, it feels like it's pretty straight. Yeah, look, that's a giant screw. Look at that. So that will contain our A key. This is our C key that's near the top. This is our front F touch piece that will run that rocker we just took off, and then the B key. And that kind of comprises most of the upper stack. We'll put these aside. That screw came out pretty freely, so that's good news. The next one we're going to try for here is this bis B flat, and this bis B flat is held in with 2 pivot screws. And we'll back this pivot screw out here. And we will back this one out. All right. We're going to work on these side keys. We've got a side C and a side B flat key. We're going to disassemble this rod here, and I think we've got another hinge screw, not a pivot screw, but a hinge screw. Not common to see that on modern horns these days of this length. There are hinge screws, but not usually of this length here. Usually they would be doing this with pivot screws, because if this long tube here that this screw goes in takes a hit or gets damaged, even in the middle a little bit, it'll stop this from working because it'll seize up. These are in good shape though, so that's good news. So there's our side C lever. We're left with the key here. We'll get that in a minute. We're going to grab the side B flat lever here. And as I am looking at this, this is a hinge screw, so this would pull out this way, but it's going to run into our side F sharp here. So what we're going to do is we're going to disassemble this key first. This is our alternate F sharp or our side F sharp. We're going to back that screw out. That's another little hinge screw there. Got that pulled out. Goes kind of over top of that B flat touch piece there. Got that loose. Goes in our screw board here. And gets set aside. And now we can get to this side B flat touch piece hinge screw. So we're going to be pulling that out here. Careful not to beat up on this tone hole. Goes right over the top of that side F sharp or that chromatic F sharp tone hole. Back that out, and there we go. Now we're going to remove the keys themselves. One of the rules we have in woodwind repair anyway is if it's got a key cup, it's called a key, or a pad cup I should say, it's called key. If it has no cup attached to it, it's going to be called a lever. So here's our side B flat lever. Here's our side B flat key. This is not the key. This is the lever. We're going to have a couple other examples of that, or maybe one, I guess, from where we are, of having a lever to operate instead of a key. So, but here is the side B flat key. Goes on the screw board here. All right, and our side C key. All right, we're going to get down to these keys over here on the bottom. This is the low C key, and this is the low E flat key. And these are held on with a hinge screw. They share the one there. Right together on that, and we're going to pull this out. And it's good news to feel these screws come out sort of very cleanly. Here's our low C key with our pad cup here. Here's our low E flat, and you can kind of see that we've got gunk built up on that. That's pretty common on just about all types of saxophones, because as you play the saxophone and it sits in the case, it kind of sits like this being down, but all that stuff's going to run to the bottom here and settle on that E flat pad, and there you go. There's that all sorts of stuff there. And as I'm looking at this here, I do see a few dents. I see a dent here. There's a dent some other place. I think it was up here on the octave key area. This post here is pushed in, and that may or may not be necessary to make sure that those posts are lined up. It's necessary to make sure they're lined up, but it may or may not be necessary to do dent work to make sure that the instrument is functional. We do have a few dents here on the instrument around the back here on the bow that the customer has really declined to have addressed. And that's okay. That's pretty common for a little dings and dents to be there. This isn't really a full restoration. This is more of a mechanical overhaul. So we've got some dents here that we could address, but we're not, because they're kind of cosmetic. That won't really affect the way the instrument plays. But these other dents that kind of affect how the keys run, and they're not very big. We'll have a video on that showing just how to do that. Okay, we're going to roll around to the other side, and let's do our palm keys. Here's our palm D. All of these keys are going to run on a set of hinge screws, so we're going to back this screw out. There's our D. And we have an E flat over here and an F. E flat. Here's our palm F. This is an older saxophone, so not every saxophone has a high F sharp, and even some newer saxophones don't have it, and this one is no exception. It does not have the high F sharp there. Along with that low E flat pad, you can see that these palm key pads, palm key F, E flat, and D, are sometimes some of the most worn pads on the instrument, just due to the moisture coming through those the top of the instrument here and kind of just landing on those pads there. All right, let's go around to the back here. We're going to want to take off this guard. And boy, this one's a little ornate here, isn't it? I believe this section here is soldered into place, and we have a guard here that's going to need to come out in order to access this, and there are two guard screws here. Oh, and I may have to grab a bigger screwdriver for this. Let's see if this one does the trick. Oh, that one's a little too thick. Maybe this one. I like that. Yeah, there we go. So I'm guessing these are going to be similar to pivot screws just in their construction, and they are. Look at that. That's just a regular pivot screw that they kind of just reused to put this guard back together here, or the back of this guard together. And with that, this part here should come off. Let's have a look at it there. There we go. That reminds me of some older Bundy 1 or Busher lower key guards. Okay, I'm gonna go back to the other screwdriver. So here is the C-sharp touch piece. And actually, I think because this is all one piece, we get to refer to this as a key. So here's a pivot screw on the top. Yep. And so we're going to call this the key because it sure enough is attached to the pad, the key cup there. All right. Here's our other pivot screw right here. All right. And next we're going to do this G-sharp lever. So this one doesn't, this is how we'd operate the G-sharp, but of course there's no key attached directly to this piece. So we'll back this screw out. There we go. There we go. This is an interesting design, Martin, the way Martin did this, but it's a key that kind of pivots like this as opposed to pivoting like that. And we've got the little hinge screw there doing its work that way. Next, we're going to take off this low B flat key. And this is one piece, so this is a key. This is going to be a gigantic hinge screw here. We get to pull this out. Look at that there. All right. Hinge screw. Oops. There we go. And then the low B here is actually run on two pivot screws. There's a pivot screw here. There we go. She pops right out. And then we're going to go around this way. Here's the other screw here for that low B. And then we've got the G-sharp key here. The lever ran this just a second ago, so we'll pull off the key section of that. Backing this out. And then that one came out quite nicely. So here's our G-sharp key. And that one's stuck between the posts. There we go. There we go. There's our G-sharp key. And now the last four keys on this horn are going to be our lower stack. This is where your F sharp, F, E, and D. And we'll go ahead and remove this. These will be on a single hinge screw. Sometimes this is referred to as the lower stack. So we're backing this out. All right. So there's that gigantic hinge screw. F sharp key. It's got this kind of interesting shape. We'll see how this works a little bit later on. But you can see how these keys sit kind of underneath. These little arms of these keys sit underneath, and this one like that pushes on that together with that long hinge screw serving as the hinge. All right. The last thing I am going to look at here on this horn, we've got a, well, second to last, we've got a neck screw that we're going to take off and set to the side here, because we're going to be working on these tone holes and leveling them and cleaning the whole body. So we want to make sure we've got a saxophone that's in good shape. So we don't want to lose anything. We're going to take that off. The thumb rest on this is a really interesting design. I wonder if I can get this little screw out, because we can adjust this going up and down by loosening this. Let's just see what happens. Oh, we can. This is good. So we're going to take this tiny little screw out. That'll allow that to slip out. We're going to set this set screw to the side here with our neck screw. And it's very, very tiny. We have the thumb rest, and I won't know if you can see that little screw that sets in that hole and prevents it from slipping out and going away. Of course, we've got to make sure that that little screw doesn't decide to wander off, but we'll do that. And here we have a naked saxophone. Look at that. All right, we're going to take some dents out of this tenor here, and we're going to use this slotted dent ball. This threads onto the end of this mandrel, which is mounted into a vise, and the slot there prevents, that ended up on the bottom, so that's good. It prevents, maybe we can see it in here, it prevents us running into the octave pip, which is a little tube that pops into the middle of that the bore of the instrument. So we'll put that on the slotted side here, and we're going to slide that down and line up our dent ball. We're going for the dent underneath the alternate F sharp, and our dent ball is about right here. We're going to go ahead and draw a little bit here, and that's coming up quite nicely. I'm watching the other end here to make sure nothing runs into the vise, and that's looking pretty good. We also have a dent, kind of putting a post out of alignment here, and that's this post at the top. We'll go ahead and rub a little bit there and see if we can get that post to come up, and I think we got that. That feels pretty good. So, all right, that's about all we got for dent work. All right, we're done with the dent tools there. We're going to examine the tone holes here. One of the most important things that we can do with tone holes is make sure that this surface here, all the surfaces of the tone holes, have a nice, clean, smooth mating surface and flat. If the tone hole itself is wavy or bumpy, that pad is going to have a difficult time maintaining a good seal. So one of the keys to good padding on the saxophone is to have good conditioned tone holes, and there's a few ways we can do that. We're going to explore one of them today, which is going to be using these leveling discs. These are just essentially steel. You could use any material as long as it's flat, but there's some sandpaper on here, and what we'll be doing is grinding across these tone holes to kind of see where their level is and check and see just how level we can make it. One of the things that's important to notice on older saxophones, in particular Martin and King, and others too, is that the tone holes here are soldered onto the body. So this is a part here, these parts, and it's a little difficult to see, but maybe we can get in there. You can kind of see a seam right here where that meets the body. That tone hole meets the body, and that is because this tone hole was manufactured apart from the horn, put in place at the factory on a jig, and then soldered into place. There are pros and cons to that. One of the pros is that you draw the metal, instead of drawing it out, modern saxophones have this drawn out of the metal here. You really have an excellent control over the thickness of the metal here. I should do this. The thickness of the metal here of the tone hole. So it's not thinner here and thicker over there, that kind of thing. And usually you can set these up to kind of B flat to begin with, in good condition. The drawback is if you have leaks around this area here is one thing we're going to have to inspect for. That means you've got a leak. No matter how good your padding is, you're always going to have a leak around there if you're not careful. Dents can be a problem if you dented, let's say, back here. Let's say if you dented this post into the body, you would be opening up a hole perhaps underneath this side of this tone hole, and that's a huge problem. So you can't just push the dents back. Not only do you have to do the dent work, but you would also have to solder that tone hole back into place and make sure that it was going to stay put and seal up. So we're going to start with this. We've got a leak light here. These leak lights are available, the ones like this are available from Instrument Clinic. It's a flexible rope light. We're going to install it here. And what we're going to do is we're going to place the tone hole leveler over top here, and let's see if we can see that here. I'm gonna lift it up and you can kind of see some light shining there. This one's pretty level. Now let's take a look at the next one. Of course, we're gonna check all the way around, but I'm just doing sort of a cursory glance here at the beginning. Not too bad. This one, this one's got, we'll go for a little smaller leveler here. This one's got a couple of little light bumps there. You can kind of see it, especially if it's rocking back and forth. So we'll be doing that. Another thing I like to do, if I can find it here quickly, is use a Sharpie marker. This is a thicker tipped Sharpie marker. And what we'll be doing here is marking the edge of this tone hole with black Sharpie marker. And so when we go to carefully sort of level this tone hole out, we can see how much of that Sharpie gets ground away. I'm going to shut this off so that we can see without that glare. And as we're looking there, we can see that the Sharpie is worn off here, but we still have some Sharpie in the back of the tone hole here. So we're going to keep going and just grind a little bit. We'll be inspecting with that light on the interior just to see what we've got. And when we've got that light to all go away and we've got that marker kind of ground away evenly across that tone hole, we know we've got a tone hole that's in pretty good shape. So still right now I'm seeing some black marker around the back. Still a little bit here. It's a little bit common with the D-tone hole, I suppose, because when they go to solder this joint here, they make sure this is good, and when they assemble this at the factory, this might put a pinching motion on this bit of the metal and try to skew that tone hole off. It happens all the time with tone holes that are drawn out on Yamaha and Selmers and others. But we're going to keep going a little bit here, just by hand. How are we looking? Still need to do a little bit more. And let's take a look. Let's see if we can actually see a little bit of light coming out of the back of that tone hole. So we're going to put this down here, and I think we're going to see if we get this tone light all the way down there. It is difficult to see. If we line it up, you can see, but it is difficult to see. Right in there. A little bit of light. And we're seeing it show up as the marker works as well. So we'll keep working on that. We'll do this process to all the tone holes. We are getting much closer. I'm liking how that looks. Let's have a closer look with the light. Putting that back in. Hard to see what you can see. If I hold this up, we can lift. You can see, we'll look around back to see how that's looking. That's looking much better. I don't see any light there at all. So the next step that we're going to do here is just clean it up a little bit with some steel wool. Steel wool just kind of removes some of the burrs. And any kind of scratching and whatever that would be on there. Shut this light off for this. And once we can ensure that there's no light leaking out, and we've got this tone hole all cleaned up with some steel wool, that's a good condition tone hole. There's no sharp edges. We know that that tone hole is flat. We know that we've got a fresh surface there. It wasn't far off to begin with, but now we know we've got something really good. We'll go through the padding process and you'll see why that's very important later on. But that's pretty much it. We'll go through the entire process here of leveling these tone holes, and we'll be back. All right. Got the tone holes together here. Got those finished up. I think you can see, let's see if we can get a good picture here of the tone holes. You can see here that we've got a good, clean, flat ring. I've double checked all these, and in that process I also checked for the soldered tone holes here. Everything seems good there. Just wanted to put out this, look at the size of that E-flat tone hole, the thickness there. That is a thick tone hole, and that took a little bit of time to get right, but we've gone through and done all the tone holes, and that came out pretty good. So next, what we're going to work on here are stripping the keys of corks and felts and pads. So what we're going to do here is the keys here are going to have a number of parts here that we have to kind of be careful of. We're going to heat the back of this cup, and that's going to animate this glue and remove the pad so that the pad can be removed. We're going to clean up the glue in there so that there's not excessive amounts of glue in there. And if we have any bits of cork or felts here, we're going to scrape that off, scrape that clean. So we might have a little dirty workspace here when we're done. But really looking at getting these keys all prepped, getting everything that's expendable, like and consumable, like felts, corks, pads, any other silencers, off of these so they can go through the cleaning process, which the saxophone body will go through along with the keys. So with that, we're going to grab a pin so that we can dig out some pads. We've got a torch here so we can heat up some glue, and we're going to have a couple of razor blades to do some scraping, and we will begin. Going to gently heat the back of this pad cup, avoiding the pearl there, which is probably made out of real pearl. We want something a little stunning. I'm going to use a screwdriver to kind of get in there and pry up these pads here. Let's see if we can adjust this. There, maybe so we're a little more centered up. All right. There we go. And while we're at it, we're going to use a paper towel here to just kind of wipe out that remaining glue. That's going to go in the bucket. All right. This is the D key. This is operated by the ring finger on the right hand. Gonna scrape off the cork. This is a bigger pad, so it's gonna take a little more heat. While I'm doing this, I'm kind of inspecting the cups here as I go, just to make sure that nothing is damaged or bent out of shape too bad. I didn't see anything like that when I took it apart. You know, almost every horn, if it's getting used, is gonna have some amount of dings or scratches or, you know, a certain amount of damage to it. And that's kind of you know, these things are made to be played, so that's kind of to be expected here. But as I'm looking here, we really have this horn has some good bones. The tube is pretty straight. The tone holes we're actually in pretty good shape. Couple hours on that. It can be anywhere from a couple hours to sometimes a couple of days to make sure tone holes are right. But really, we've got a saxophone here in good shape. This is the low C sharp key. Nope, this is the low B key. And like a few of these keys here, we're going to have rollers here. And these are probably real pearl, so we've got to be very careful with this, but we're going to take this part out and we'll put this in our screw board so that we know. Got a pair of pliers here where this goes, but we got to keep track of these. I'm not sure if you can get replacement pearl rollers anymore, but it is possible to fabricate them yourself. So this is the low B there. We're gonna go right there. Oh boy. Boy, that glue is really sticking that in there. There we go. What that is essentially hot melt glue. There's a couple of different types of glues you can use. I like hot melt glue the most. And we can talk about that when we get to assembling it. But essentially, it just gives you more work time than I think shellacs or other glues allow. Here's the F sharp key. Here's the arm here that would attach to the G sharp key to close that. And we'll heat the back of this cup. Again, this cup looks like it's in good shape. Key looks like it's in fine shape. Nothing to get too concerned about there. All right, here's our G sharp key. So this would have sat like, would have sat like this, right? Would it have? That's confusing. Would have sat like this, I think. Just like this. So as this, nope, sorry, like this. So on altos, you'll see that this part here, this arm from the F sharp, contacts the side, the cup. But because these keys are a little bit further away, there's an adjustment arm that this will touch. And you see kind of how that lines up there. So that's, yep, G sharp key. No corks on this. Oh, I take that back. There is a little cork on the underside of this. We'll get this cleaned up here. Again, good condition cup. Everything looks good there. All right. This is the low B flat key. We're going to back this screw out. Another roller here. Put that in our screw board over yonder. Cork to scrape off here. and this is a big pad, so we're gonna heat quite a bit here. I like to keep this torch moving. If you're in one spot, you have the chance of burning lacquer. Now these keys are nickel plated. That's kind of grayish silver, and there might actually be lacquer on top of these. I'm not familiar with whether or not these horns would have been lacquered, but I might be seeing a little bit of lacquer on top of there yet. But we always keep that flame moving just so we avoid that hot spot damaging any kind of finish or lacquer that's on there. Although bare nickel is very durable. You'll find Yamaha's student model instruments have nickel plating, and those keys are very, very durable. Others do as well. So this is our E key, middle finger, right hand. Gonna scrape a cork here. Heat in the back of that cup. Avoiding the pearl. Again, that's a natural pearl. So I don't know that it'll melt, but it might burn a little bit. We don't want that. Of course, this glue is sticking right behind where that pearl is, because we didn't put much heat behind there. We will cook it from this side, though. You can scrape out some of these remnants of this pad here and wipe out that glue. All right, G-sharp lever. No pad cup to remove here, and it is the lever, so we'll scrape here, and we'll look to see what other corks. I don't think there are any others, just the foot cork here. This is low C sharp, so we will remove this roller. And there might be a cork on the back here. I'm gonna put that guy over there. Might have a cork, yep, right back here to scrape. And we will heat the back of this cup. And get that glue cooking so we can get that pad removed. This, by the way, the torch I'm using here is a butane torch. It's made by Blazer. Let's see. I don't know if it has a model number on this, but these are available through band instrument suppliers such as Vota Tool, I believe, and others like J.L. Smith, Allied Supply, but you can also find them on Amazon, which is kind of an easy place to go to get them. So, all right. I believe this is the side B-flat lever. We've got a bucket here. We're going to dip all of our keys in here. Might have had some here, but we will scrape that clean. Ready to go. Palm, looks like palm D, E flat maybe. Again, these keys are looking like they're in fine shape. I'm looking for a key that's damaged or beat on. This horn was actually well cared for, I think. The pads might be originals, but they are, and the corks maybe too. Here's our low B flat guard, or guard that went across the low B and the low B flat. We'll clean that as well. The horn was taken good care of. It was not abused. It was played and used, and that's where you're going to find some of the little wear and tear that you're going to see on these horns. But really no misuse or abuse. Of course, the player of this horn is took good care of it. palm F key here. This is the chromatic F sharp, the right hand side F sharp, alternate F sharp, it gets called sometimes. This is either the side C or the side B flat. I can't tell, they're very similar. Most of the time, these keys will go on. If they go on, they can't go on in another place because either this is too wide or some other part of it is, it won't fit like it's supposed to. So when we go to reassemble this saxophone, we'll have an idea of, you know, we already know this is either the side B flat or the C, but we'll know where to put this horn or put the key on the horn just due to how it fits in there. And we will be doing key fitting, so we'll get some more details on that as well. Interesting part here, this, I probably can't see it, but there is a serial number stamped in this arm here underneath. And I think they did this on the side B flats of these horns, because I've had a couple of Martins where they did that. So that might make this the side C key. I'm sorry, side B flat. But there's the serial number. I don't think this company was in the habit of stamping the serial number on every key, although some, I've seen a few that have done that, not Martins. The other one was the palm E flat. This is the palm D. Yep, palm D. All right. Here's our thumb rest. We've got some quartz on the back of this. Pretty thin cork, but we'll go ahead and scrape this down. All right, here's the C key, left hand. Your finger, this doesn't have a touch piece because your finger doesn't touch this directly. This closes when you play B, so when you push down the B key with your left hand, this will also close that along with the B or the A key in order to produce the note C. Of course, if you push A and B together, you'll get the note A, and this will also close. So, cleaning that out, there's some cork on the back of this arm here. Side C lever. Scraping some cork there. There we go. This is the A key. Left hand will be operated by your ring finger. This felt here pushes down on the bis pad, bis cup, the bis key. And so felt here, we'll replace that with another kind of round felt. Got a cork here. And again, these keys look like they're in fantastic shape. I'm hoping the key fitting will be pretty quick and pretty nominal, pretty easy. Next, we've got the low C key. This one also has a roller. We'll get this one removed. Get this put away over here on our screw board. We'll see how much that melted there. Yep, not enough. Keeping that flame moving. All right. All right, here's the body octave key, and we see a cork pad here. We'll definitely be replacing that with a leather pad. Here we go. Here's our low E flat. Again, these pads are usually the worst, and this one's kind of gunky. This one does look like it has been replaced, you know, just in the course of time. Pull that screw out. All right, next, this is the F key, first finger right hand. Scraping off some cork. Gonna avoid that pearl. All right, what do we have here? This is the thumb octave lever. This is what you'll operate with your left-hand thumb to choose octaves. And we've got some cork silencers here that we'll scrape off. This is kind of an antiquated design. We'll have to dig into that a little bit more. Here's what I think is the side B flat. I'm sorry, the side C, because the other one was the we're thinking is the side B flat. Scrape the cork there, and a little bit of heat. Again, I am really kind of thankful that these keys are in good shape. I don't see tons of wear in the nickel plating here. And I am pretty sure that we've got a layer of lacquer on top of that nickel plating, because I just see it worn away, and then I see some bare nickel. Which is, it's odd to see nickel kind of lacquered over, but it happens. Let's see here. Here's the B key, left hand B. You'd play it like this, and you'd close it that away. Okay, coming down to it, here's the octave shift lever. This will be the part that actually activates the neck octave key. And it's got some levers and some other stuff there, just some cork to scrape off. Here's our front F rocker. This will get activated by the F rocker touch piece, and this little arm here will activate, sit underneath the palm F key and open that up when we do altissimo and some other alternate fingerings. Here's our front F rocker while we're at it. We've got a felt underneath there and probably a cork that was here, but it's gone. Palm E, we're going to have a cork right down here. Scrape that clean. We've got a little pad way up here, so we're going to go ahead and heat that. Hoping this is going to be a good sounding horn. These Martins are known to be kind of bigger cannon-like horns. They have kind of a big sound, a big broader spread sound, a little different, a little bit more like riding a Cadillac as compared to some more modern horns like Mark 6s that are a little bit more like driving a sports car. But really kind of a fun, big, colorful sound. And this is our G key. And this little bit here actually does some business with the octave key to flip octaves between the neck octave and the body octave. Got that pad off there. And the last thing to do is the neck. Let's pull out the neck and get that disassembled. Not much to it. All right, here's our neck. A few dents, really nothing too bad. I expect sometimes to see these things kind of compressed and kind of bent, and I like to feel this kind of area to see if it's bulged out. And this one, maybe a little, but I don't really think so. Looks pretty even. I think everything's good on this neck. Let's go ahead and get that neck octave key off. Get that pulled off. I am going to actually leave the cork here. And when we get this thing cleaned and dried off, I'll mark this with tape so we can get this neck cork replaced. But yeah, you can see that green lime scale. The next stage of cleaning is going to involve removing the lime scale. I'm not sure if I'm going to show this just because there's not a whole lot to see. It's a little bit like doing the dishes. I use some dish soap and a mild acid to kind of just remove this lime scale. And I think we'll see it comes out pretty good. This is going to be kind of a good before and after here for that. Octave key does have that little pad, and again, this one's a cork, so we'll just heat that up and remove it. And there we go. We'll do some dishes, and we'll be back in a minute.